My top 32 starting running backs from every NFL team. Let's go. Just a disclaimer here. This isn't going to include second string running backs. Some of the second string running backs are better than some of the guys on this list, but we're just doing starting running backs. So let's get into it. Coming in at number 32, I have Rex Burkhead of the Texans. So the Texans don't really have a running back. Number one, Marlon Mack also was an addition to this running back group in the offseason. But Rex Burkhead last season, he had 427 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Really nothing crazy there. Coming in at number 31, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Chiefs. So Edwards-Helaire is a former first-round pick, and I would say he hasn't really lived up to the hype. I mean, I don't agree with drafting running backs in the first round of the draft, and the Chiefs don't really use like a specific running back one. They kind of go by running back by committee or like whoever's the hot hand at the time, because obviously the Chiefs are in a run-first offense. But last season, Edwards-Helaire, he did deal with some injuries. He only played 10 games. He had 517 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Coming in at number 30, I have Chase Edmonds, who is now on the Dolphins. So he was the number 2 back for the Cardinals last year, which is almost like a number 3 back because Kyler Murray does run the ball a ton as well. But in the time he saw on the field, he had 903 yards from scrimmage and 2 rushing touchdowns. So yeah, I think he's going to definitely get more snaps and more opportunities with the Dolphins because the Dolphins really didn't have that running back one last year. I think Edmonds is going to come in, be that starting running back. And I think we're going to see him have much higher numbers next year. I think he's easily going to break over 1,000 yards from scrimmage next year and maybe even get 10 total touchdowns or something. I think he's going to have a much better season next year with the Dolphins. Coming in number 29, I have Michael Carter of the Jets. So yes, I'm aware that the Jets did draft Hall. Hall might be the starting running back come like week 2 or something, but right now I'm going with Michael Carter because, you know, he has played in the NFL at least for one season already. So he was a rookie last year, and in his rookie season, he had 964 yards from scrimmage and 4 rushing touchdowns. I think he played pretty well last season, and I think him and Hall together should make like a really, really good backfield duo, even if Hall is that number 1 running back in a few weeks. At number 28, I have Rashad Penny. So Rashad Penny is also a former first-round pick. He really struggled to see the field in his first few years dealing with injuries and such, but last year I'd say he really started to break out and come into his own. He had 747 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. At number 27, I have J.K. Dobbins. So Dobbins obviously didn't play at all last season due to injury, but 2020, his rookie season, he had 925 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns. I think we're going to see him get a much larger workload this upcoming season. I think he's going to come in and be that definite number 1 back. So I think he's definitely going to be higher on this list at the end of next season. Coming in at number 26, I have Devin Singletary of the Bills. So my thing with Devin Singletary is the Bills just don't like to run the ball. Like, they just don't like to run the ball. They like to use short passes instead of running the ball. And I've even said at times, like, they need to run the ball more with an actual running back and not Josh Allen, because when they do run the ball, it's like with Josh Allen, I'm like, oh my God, you guys are having Josh Allen throw the ball like 50 times a game, also running a lot with the ball. Like, let's protect Josh Allen a little bit. So Devin Singletary had 1,098 yards from scrimmage last year. He had 8 total touchdowns, but the big issue was the fumbles. He also had 5 fumbles last season. They obviously drafted Cook. Not sure if he's going to be the starter at all next season. He might move into that starting role next season. Probably not week 1, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this Bills backfield and if the Bills decide they want to run the ball more, which I think they do if they did draft Cook that early. At number 25, I have Miles Sanders, and this is another running back that I think just doesn't get enough snaps and isn't used properly. Like, the Eagles just didn't want to run the ball early last season. Like, for the first half of last season, the Eagles were just like, yeah, we're not going to run the ball with Miles Sanders. We're not going to do that. So he only played 12 games last season as well. He had 912 yards from scrimmage, and he also had no touchdowns. I think he's a much better running back than those stats say, but I feel like he's not being used correctly. At number 24, I have DeAndre Swift of the Lions. He had 1,069 yards from scrimmage last year, 7 total touchdowns. So I would say he's the running back 1 for the Lions right now, but I feel like the Lions are more of a team to have like that 1-2 punch with him and Williams. So DeAndre Swift isn't going to be getting all the snaps. Williams is still going to be getting his fair share of snaps, but you know, Swift did put up solid numbers last year. At number 23, I have Damian Harris of the Patriots, and he really, really had a breakout season last year. Like, his stats from last year compared to the year before were actually crazy. He took a huge jump last season. He had 1,061 yards from scrimmage, 15 total touchdowns. And the thing is this, though. We know the deal with Patriots running backs. Like, fantasy football wise, you guys know, like, if you draft a Patriots running back, like, that guy might be good for a while, but then the Patriots are just going to go a totally different direction at running back. So it's going to be interesting to see, if Damian Harris is really that running back one, that 3-down back heading into next season. I don't really think he is, because they also have Stevenson on that roster in that running back room. I still think Damian Harris is going to play well, but I feel like he might not get, a ton of snaps that you're going to see a guy like Derrick Henry get or Jonathan Taylor get. At number 22, I have Cordero Patterson of the Falcons. So this is an interesting situation. Patterson wasn't really a running back before last season. He was that speed guy, that return specialist, was a wide receiver, but he started playing running back last season for the Falcons, and he had 1,166 yards from scrimmage and 11 total touchdowns. I wasn't really sure where to put him on this list because I feel like he's like a really interesting situation, but yeah, I mean, he definitely played solid last year and was one of the most important parts of that Falcons offense. At number 21, I have James Robinson / Travis Etienne. I know I said this is just starting running backs, but I'm not sure which one of these guys is going to be the starter. And honestly, I really didn't know where to put these guys on this list. Like, I feel like they have a ton of potential, but I'm going to put them at number 21 for right now because they're another group of guys that are just in a really interesting spot, interesting situation. So Travis Etienne didn't play at all his rookie season due to injury. James Robinson was in his second year last year, came off of a 1,000-yard rookie rushing season, but Urban Meyer was like, I don't want to play you. I don't know why, but like James Robinson looked great his rookie season. Urban Meyer must have had something against him. I don't know, but he didn't like playing Robinson, but I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a really good 1-2 punch in the Jaguars backfield. I think they have a ton of potential. They're both really young. At number 20, I have David Montgomery of the Bears. So he had 1,150 yards from scrimmage last year and 7 total touchdowns in 13 games played. Listen, that Bears O-line is really not good, but I think they're going to be running the ball a ton next season because I think they have to. I don't think they drafted really well. Allen Robinson is now on the Rams. You have Justin Fields back there who really has like no help in this wide receiver core except for maybe Mooney and stuff. But yeah, I think Montgomery is going to be getting a lot of carries next season. At number 19, I have Cam Akers. And this is another guy where I was like, I don't really know where to put him. He's kind of a question mark. So Akers had a pretty good rookie season once he got onto the field. He didn't see a ton of snaps early on, but then later in the season and in the playoffs, he started getting a ton of snaps and he really played well, especially in the playoffs. But then last summer, before his sophomore year, he tore his Achilles, somehow was able to come back for the last week of the season in the playoffs. Didn't really do anything crazy, but he showed a ton of potential in his rookie season in the games that he got a good amount of snaps. So I guess he is kind of a question mark heading into next season, but I put him at 19, I guess, a lot based on potential-wise. At number 18, I have Saquon Barkley. Now, Giants fans, I know you're going to be freaking out. I'm a Giants fan. If you're a Giants fan, don't freak out. Listen. Let me talk. So last season was Saquon Barkley's first season back from his torn ACL, and you could tell. People say, it takes one full season of playing after you tear your ACL to get back to 100%. So I don't think Barkley was 100% last year. Like, I think, yeah, he was healed, but like he was still getting his feet back under him, I guess you could say. Yeah, it didn't help the Giants' O-line was absolutely terrible, but he didn't play well. Like, I'm sorry, he didn't put up great numbers for me to put him in the top 15 of running backs when you see what these other running backs have done last season. In 13 games, he had 856 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns. Now, do I think he's going to play much better this upcoming season? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hope so as a Giants fan, but I think they really made that offensive line a lot better. I think he's going to be more confident in himself. Literally before I recorded this video, I got a notification that said, like, Saquon Barkley said he's like trusting his knee now. Like he's trusting his knee more now, which is obviously super important, and it makes sense. First season back from an ACL major injury, running back position where you're cutting a lot. I think he's going to play better this upcoming season, and I think he's going to be back in that top 15, top 10 area. At number 17, I have Elijah Mitchell for the 49ers. He had a really, really good rookie season. He had 1,100 yards from scrimmage, 6 total touchdowns, and he averaged 4.7 yards per carry. At number 16, I have Antonio Gibson of the Commanders, 1,331 yards from scrimmage last year, 10 total touchdowns, but the issue was fumbles. He had 6 fumbles last season. At number 15, I have Josh Jacobs. He had 1,220 yards from scrimmage last year for the Raiders and 9 total touchdowns. I feel like they kind of give Kenyon Drake A good amount of snaps for a running back too, which I guess makes sense. You want to protect your running back on, not wear them down so much. But Josh Jacobs has been solid in his first 2 NFL seasons. He really has. At number 14, I have James Conner. He had 1,127 yards from scrimmage last year, but he had a whopping 18 total touchdowns last year. Really, really good year for James Conner last year, and he re-signed with the Cardinals. At number 13, I have Leonard Fournette of the Buccaneers. So Leonard Fournette, he doesn't do anything like spectacular crazy where you're like, oh my God, it's actually insane. He just hurdled a guy or stiff armed them like crazy like Derrick Henry, but he just gets the job done. I don't know. He just performs. Like he just gets first downs, gets into the end zone, can catch passes out of the backfield. I don't know. He just performs in that Bucs offense. He had 1,266 yards from scrimmage last year and 10 total touchdowns. He's just like perfect with Tom Brady back there. I don't know. Works really well. At number 12, I have Ezekiel Elliott. A lot of people say like, oh, Zeke is washed now. Zeke is done. Yeah, I agree. The contract that the Cowboys gave Zeke probably wasn't great, especially because they're giving Tony Pollard a lot of carries now. But Zeke has still performed. I know he had the issues with fumbling 2 years ago, but this past season, he had 1,289 yards from scrimmage and 12 total touchdowns. Like, you're going to take that any day. Like, all right, you're like, oh, that's the numbers my running back's putting up. You're going to take that, I wouldn't say Zeke is washed. I would say, yeah, that contract wasn't good. And yeah, they're giving Tony Pollard a lot of snaps. But in the snaps Zeke is getting, he's putting up the numbers. So I don't know. I feel like Zeke is being called washed a little too much. And I will say that as a Giants fan, as an unbiased Giants fan. At number 11, I have Aaron Jones, 1,190 yards from scrimmage, 10 total touchdowns. He's another running back whose, snaps might be getting bidden into, I guess you could say, or taken by running back too. A.J. Dillon played really well last year. He had some really great plays, but I think it makes sense. You don't want to, play your running back so much. They're getting hit like almost every single play. They're either running out of bounds, getting hit / tackled, or scoring a touchdown. We know running backs, their career is pretty short. It makes sense to, split the snaps up. But yeah, still solid numbers for Aaron Jones. Still, catches passes out of the backfield and is a really important part to that Packers offense. Coming in at number 10, I have Javonte Williams of the Broncos. So when I watched Javonte Williams last year, I was like, this guy looks like a top 10 running back. Yes, he was splitting carries with Melvin Gordon. And yes, it was only his rookie season. But maybe this is a little bit of me being like potential ranking, like me just looking forward to next season and ranking where I think he's going to be. But he looked really, really good. He had 1,219 yards from scrimmage and 7 total touchdowns. And remember, he wasn't like the running back one coming into the year. If he gets more snaps, he's going to put up some crazy numbers. At number 9, I have Christian McCaffrey, another guy where I was like, I really don't know where to rank him. He hasn't been healthy for the past 2 seasons, but 3 seasons ago, he put up over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. I mean, he did have over 700 yards in 7 games last season, so he was averaging over 100 yards per game, which is still good. He's just got to stay healthy, and I think that's the biggest question. Is he going to be able to come back and play, at least 15 games next season? Is he going to be able to stay healthy? He's only getting older. That's my question with Christian McCaffrey. But when he's healthy, I mean, insane stuff. At number 8, I have Alvin Kamara, who had a little bit of a down year last year by his standards, but literally by anyone else's standards, you'd be like, wow, that's a good year. He had 1,337 yards from scrimmage and 9 total touchdowns. We know a large part of his game is catching passes out of the backfield. And the Saints kind of had a lot of different quarterback situations going on last year after Jameis went down with an injury. So I do think he will bounce back this year with Jameis coming back healthy and having that consistent presence at quarterback. At number 7, I have Joe Mixon. So last summer, everyone was saying, don't draft Joe Mixon in fantasy. You can't draft Joe Mixon in fantasy. Everyone was saying that. I mean, it made sense. Bengals had a really bad O-line. Didn't really make sense to draft him. But then Joe Mixon was like, oh, really? Don't draft me? Watch me. I'm just going to break out right now. And that's exactly what he did. He had 1,519 yards from scrimmage and 16 total touchdowns. Obviously, this team went to the Super Bowl. They made their offensive line much better in this offseason. So I think Joe Mixon is going to continue to put up numbers like this, especially because it's going to be easier to find holes to run through when your offensive line is better and not giving you like 0 seconds to run or pass if you're Joe Burrow. At number 6, I have Dalvin Cook. So he only played 13 games last season, but he had 1,383 yards from scrimmage, 6 total touchdowns. Just a really good running back. Obviously didn't play all the games last season, would have better stats if he played more games, but we know what Dalvin Cook can do, one of the best running backs in the league. At number 5, I have Najee Harris, who had an outstanding, actually insane rookie season. I feel like we're not talking about it enough because that Steelers O-line was not good. Ben Roethlisberger could not throw a football. Najee was literally putting this offense on his back, just trying to drag this offense to put up some points in games so their defense could, lock down the other team and try to get wins. He had 1,665 yards from scrimmage and 10 total touchdowns. At number 4, I have Austin Eckler, and I feel like some people might say this is too high for Austin Eckler, but listen, he just does everything really well. Yeah, maybe he's not that beast north and south runner, but he gets the yards and he makes the plays, especially out of the backfield, catching passes out of the backfield. 1,558 yards from scrimmage last year and 20 total touchdowns. He performs. He's one of the most underrated backs in the NFL. At number 3, I have Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb does split a lot of his carries with Kareem Hunt, but when Nick Chubb has the ball, he is one of the best running backs in the NFL. Yes, his stats aren't insane because he isn't getting all the carries. He had 1,433 yards from scrimmage last year and 9 total touchdowns. But like I was saying, when he has the ball in his hand, he plays insane. I love this stat. He has averaged at least 5 yards per carry in every season he's been in the NFL. At least 5 yards per carry he's averaged every season he's been in the NFL. That's crazy. That's someone who is performing. At number 2, I have Derrick Henry. He only played 8 games last season, but in those 8 games, he had 1,091 yards from scrimmage, which means he was on pace for over 2,000 yards if he didn't get injured. He had 10 total touchdowns. Listen, Derrick Henry was the best back in the NFL before he got injured, but we know someone else overtook that position. I just couldn't deny them that number 1 spot. But Derrick Henry still is insane. His size, his speed, his power, insane, huge part of that Titans offense. That Titans offense literally goes through him, not their quarterback. And at number 1, I have Jonathan Taylor. I couldn't deny Jonathan Taylor the number 1 spot after the season he had last year. He led the league in rushing yards with 1,811. He also led the league in yards from scrimmage with 2,171. He had 18 rushing touchdowns and 20 total touchdowns last season. And he's only 23 years old. I mean, he really just put this offense on his back. Yes, Carson Wentz didn't have the most terrible regular season, but I mean, it was Carson Wentz playing quarterback. There are always those really head-scratching turnovers. But what Jonathan Taylor can do with the ball in his hands, not just running north and south, but catching the ball out of the backfield and taking it like 80 yards down the field, actually insane. So I had to give him that number 1 spot. So that is it for this video, guys. Let me know your top 5 running backs in the NFL in the comments down below. Appreciate you watching till the end. I really do. All right, guys, that's it. Peace.